some of the questions that have intrigued the world for centuries. But in recent days, these questions have rung louder than ever amid the ongoing Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. Between 1939 and 1945, the Nazis killed about 6 million Jews and other civilians throughout Europe, a generation lost forever. Almost every nation has tried to destroy Jews either physically or spiritually time and again. Today we will tell you how irrational fears and the misreading of history contributed to the hatred of the Jews, known as the anti-Semitism, which is often called the most ancient hatred. In each page of history, it took a different form. Hitler gave the worst chapter to this history. He converted anti-Semitism into genocide, massacred millions over his whim, which makes you wonder, how did it all begin? Jews are the people of the Hebrew Bible who lived in a land now known as Israel. They believed that there is only one God. Christianity emerged from Judaism. Jesus of Nazareth was a Jew who preached a singular religious message. The first Christians were Jews who prayed in Hebrew and observed the customs and rituals of Judaism. The Last Supper was the Jewish religious meal, probably at Passover. Jesus was put to death at the hands of the Romans under Pontius Pilate in Judea. However, the Gospel accounts were interpreted as blaming the Jews for the crucifixion. To his followers, Jesus was the Christ, the Messiah, and his death, sacrificial atonement. But Jews did not believe in this idea, which made Romans suspicious. Everything about the Jews was an alarm for the Romans. Years after Jesus was crucified, and thanks to Christian propaganda, the Romans destroyed the temple in Jerusalem. It was a climactic moment. The death of Jesus was blamed on the Jews, and people believed it. Such sentiments led to a religious rivalry between Christians and Jews. The church played a key role in this mayhem and preached anti-Semitism. Their existence was seen as a problem. Jews were exiled and scattered to live as a dispersed minority. But fleeing did not help, and anti-Semitism followed them. By the 5th century, Christianity became the dominant religion in Rome. Roman Emperor Constantine I converted to Christianity. Soon the Roman Empire became Christian. New laws were created, Jews were marginalized in the Roman Empire, and they were denied basic rights. The accusations against Jews were not renounced until the 1960s, when the Second Vatican Council repudiated the ancient charge that Jews had murdered Christ. Excluded from the Christian society, Jews maintained their religious and social customs. In 1095, Pope Urban II called for the liberation of Jerusalem. Christian crusaders set off to free the Holy Land from the Muslims. On the way, they slaughtered thousands of Jews. Throughout the Middle Ages, Christians persecuted Jews. It was propagated that the Jews poisoned the wells of Europe, which caused the Black Plague in the 14th century. None of this could be proved, but with enough mouths to say, it became a fact. England, France, Spain, Portugal, and many German states expelled masses of Jews, most of whom migrated eastward, taking with them their religious convictions and traditions. Anti-Semitism became the answer to Europe's problems. With the 18th century Enlightenment's emphasis on reason, the domination of the church diminished. Some Enlightenment thinkers called for full rights for Jews, but that too came with a condition, that Jews discard their religious customs. A century after the French Revolution proclaimed liberty, equality, and fraternity, giving Jews their freedom, frenzied mobs in the streets of Paris chanted "Death to the Jews." Religious discrimination turned into political and social anti-Semitism. Jews were blamed for the assassination of the Tsar Alexander II in 1881. Pogroms, murderous rampages against Jews erupted in Russia many times during the next 3 decades. The second half of the 19th century saw yet another kind of anti-Semitism. The theory was propagated that Jews were not merely a religious group, but a separate race, the Semites, set apart because of genetically inherited characteristics. Jews were said to be dangerous and threatening because of their quote-unquote Jewish blood. Anti-Semitic racism united pseudo-scientific theories with centuries-old anti-Jewish stereotypes. The presence of Jews in German cultural, economic and political life made them convenient scapegoats for Germany's misfortunes. Enter Adolf Hitler. Hitler viewed world history as a racial struggle for the survival of the fittest. He saw Jews as the source of all evil. Disease, social injustice, cultural decline, capitalism, and all forms of Marxism, especially communism. Nazi racism victimized many groups of people, but it was against the Jews that the Nazi state mobilized all its resources for terror. After the Nazi takeover of power, anti-Jewish measures were put into effect one after another. Jewish businesses were boycotted and seized. Jews were separated from non-Jews, excluded from professions and studies. Jewish children were barred from schools. But the worst was yet to come. 6 million Jews were butchered, and it was named the Holocaust. Anti-Semitism did not end with the Holocaust and persists in Europe, the United States, and around the world even today. Hatred for Jews is fueled by myths, lies, and conspiracy theories. However, despite all the hatred and persecution faced over centuries, Jews continue to flourish and contribute to the world. They are a minute percentage of the world, yet their impact remains to be incalculable. They survived thousands of years of oppression, but haven't lost their sheen.